Halloween is here again, and this year I thought the time was finally right for the basics on a pair of Decepticons whose name says it all. Apeface and Snapdragon, the HORRORCONs. The HORRORCONs were originally released in 1987. The toys were triple changers, each able to transform into a jet mode and a beast mode. Apeface became a robotic gorilla, while Snapdragon became a dinosaur. They were also both headmasters, transformers whose heads disconnected and transformed into partner minifigures that could ride in their jet mode cockpits. The HORRORCONs' unique gimmick was that their partners were triple changers too, transforming into the heads of both their robot and their beast modes. Apeface and Snapdragon were both characterized as disgusting slobs. Apeface delighted in being as obnoxious as possible, insulting everyone around him and deliberately neglecting his personal hygiene. Snapdragon was lazy, unmotivated, and loved wallowing in pools of grease, but he had a hair-trigger temper and would violently lash out at anyone who disturbed him. The pair's headmaster partners were aliens from the planet Nebulos. Apeface was bonded to Spasma, the nervous, insecure son of disgraced Nebulan aristocracy, whose partnership with the Decepticon only made his anxiety worse. And Snapdragon to Crunk, a vulgar career criminal who made his living kidnapping and extorting before he became the bodyguard of the evil Nebulan leader, Lord Zarak. The story of how the HORRORCONs became headmasters was told in both Marvel's Headmasters comic book miniseries and the three-part finale of the Transformers cartoon, The Rebirth, which each put their own spin on the idea. In the comic, Apeface and Snapdragon were among the Decepticons under the command of Scorponok, who were summoned to Nebulos by Lord Zarak to help get rid of a group of Autobots who had settled there. To fight these Decepticons, the Autobots bonded with a group of heroic Nebulans to become headmasters. And to match their enemy's new power, the Decepticons bonded with Zarak's followers to become headmasters as well. The HORRORCONs went on to appear on and off in minor roles in the regular Marvel comic book and in exclusive stories written for the United Kingdom's version of the title for the next few years, before eventually meeting their ends in the comic's final issues. Apeface was destroyed when Cybertron was attacked by the monster planet Unicron, and Snapdragon was taken out by the Autobot Blaster. In the cartoon, the story was broadly similar, with the Decepticons pursuing a group of Autobots to Nebulos. During their first battle there, Snapdragon mauled the Autobots' human ally Daniel Witwicky, leaving him on the brink of death, and the Autobots and Nebulans' ensuing efforts to devise a mobile life support system to save Daniel's life helped to inspire the creation of Headmaster technology. Apeface vocally objected to the idea of becoming a headmaster, but was quickly put in line by his commander Cyclonus, and submitted to the process. Apeface and Snapdragon's story unfolded very differently in Japan, where The Rebirth wasn't aired, and instead, an original animated series was produced, Transformers: The Headmasters, which reinvented the headmaster concept for the Japanese market. In this series, Spasma and Crunk didn't exist. The small headmaster figures were Apeface and Snapdragon themselves, who connected to and controlled larger, lifeless robot bodies called transtectors. Introduced halfway through the series, the pair were part of a crew of tiny transformers that left Cybertron millions of years ago to escape the war. These refugees settled on the planet Master, where they developed Headmaster technology, making themselves bigger and stronger to survive the planet's harsh climate. The HORRORCONs were among those who sided with Scorponok when he staged a coup on Master, but when it ended in failure, they were all exiled into space. Most of Scorponok's followers went on to join Galvatron's Decepticons, but Apeface and Snapdragon roamed the galaxy together for a while, causing trouble, until they were finally recruited to join their old allies in Galvatron's ranks. The HORRORCONs made a handful of other appearances in comics and storybooks across the US, the UK, and Japan in the late 80s, but they were never major characters. And this didn't change as the franchise moved into the 21st century, with neither getting any significant roles in any new series, both continuing to appear only in a minor capacity in the occasional comic book or video game. In 2004, Hasbro had plans to release a new kind of HORRORCON in the Transformers Universe toy line. Unrelated to the originals, these 4 new HORRORCONs were to be spooky recolors of Beast Wars toys, sold exclusively at Walmart as a special Halloween promotion. Black Arachnia, Night Prowler, Waspinator, and Leatherhide. But their release was cancelled, and so, for 30 years, the only new HORRORCON toy was the Apeface released in 2016's Titan's Return, which wasn't a full-size figure, but a small Titan Master robot that transformed into Apeface's head, which could connect to the larger figures in the series. He came with a miniature battle mech based on his original body that converted into a gorilla, a jet, and a gun larger figures could hold. When this figure was released in the Japanese Transformers Legends toy line, it allowed Apeface a brief turn in the spotlight in the tie-in Legends manga. The comedic comic strip featured the version of Apeface from the Headmasters anime, and detailed how, after his Transtector was destroyed, the tiny HORRORCON dedicated himself to mastering telekinesis, which he then used in an attempt to overthrow Megatron, only to be foiled by the intervention of Laserbeak. Eventually, over 3 decades after their introduction, the HORRORCONs finally received full and proper brand new toys in the War for Cybertron trilogy. First Apeface in 2019's Siege toy line, then Snapdragon in 2020's Earthrise. The figures were faithful updates of the originals, complete with all 3 modes and Headmaster partners. The Titan's Return Apeface toy could even connect to the new figure. Where it had been based on the head of the original toy, the Siege Apeface's head was based on his cartoon appearance. Following the release of these new figures, Apeface has been making recurring appearances in IDW Publishing's comic books. As a former gladiator who joined up with the Decepticons after Cybertron's government shut down the arenas and his attempts to take the fights underground failed. And both HORRORCONs have also been added to the Earth Wars mobile game, which is particularly notable in Snapdragon's case. See, when Snapdragon's Earthrise toy was originally announced, it was promoted not as a Decepticon, but as an unaffiliated mercenary. By the time the toy was actually released, this idea had been dropped, and Snapdragon was sold as a Decepticon like normal. But Earth Wars brought the idea back, depicting Snapdragon as an ex-Decepticon who had left Megatron's forces to strike out on his own as a soldier for hire. Though they may never have been the biggest or most significant characters, the HORRORCONs remain cult favourites with fans, equal parts exciting, disgusting, and of course, horrifying. And those are the basics on the HORRORCONs. Lizard versus monkey, which one's your favourite? Tell me in the comments. If you've enjoyed this look at Transformers history and lore, hit the like button and subscribe for more. Plus, get early access to new episodes by supporting the show on Patreon.